This is what happened when love turns blind and a woman pays her own bride price, only to discover she has married her biggest mistake. This is the story of Sandra and the secrets that nearly destroyed her. Sandra was a beautiful young woman in her late 20s, born and raised in Port Harcourt. She worked in a bank in GRA, a decent job that paid her well and gave her a life many girls her age only dreamed of. She had everything: good clothes, a comfortable apartment, and parents who loved her dearly. But in her heart, she felt incomplete. That was until she met Andrew. Andrew was tall, charming, and handsome in a way that drew people in. His laughter was contagious, and he had the kind of smile that could melt eyes. Sandra fell in love with him almost immediately. It didn't matter that he didn't have a stable job. It didn't matter that he was still squatting with a friend. All she saw was his charm, his soft words, and the way he looked at her as if she was the only woman alive. Her mother noticed the relationship early. One afternoon, when Andrew visited their family home for the first time, Mama Sandra pulled her daughter aside. "My daughter," she began gently, "I see the way your eyes follows that young man. You loved him." Sandra smiled shyly. "Yes, Mama, he makes me happy. I want to marry him." Her mother's face hardened. Love is sweet, but love without responsibility is like soup without salt. That boy has no job. How will he take care of you? Marriage is not about smiles and sweet words. It is about duty, provision, and sacrifice. A man must stand like the head of his home. But Sandra, blinded by love, shook her head. "Mama, things will change. He is just unlucky now. When we marry, he will find work. He has dreams. I believe in him." Her mother sighed deeply. The sign of a woman who had lived long enough to know the stubbornness of youth. Sandra, my child. When a woman closes her ears to advice, she opens her eyes to tears. But Sandra didn't listen. Her heart was already tied to Andrew. Not only her mother, even her closest friend Amaka noticed what was happening. One Saturday, as they shopped for wedding fabrics in Mile 1 Market, Amaka confronted her. "Sandra," she said, holding up a piece of lace wrapper, "why are you running around for this wedding? As if you are the groom. You are buying clothes, gifts for Umunna, even paying for the hall. Is Andrew not supposed to handle all this?" Sandra frowned. "Brush her off, Amaka. Please don't start. You know his father is not doing well. His family is struggling. Should I abandon him because of money? Love covers all things." Amaka shook her head in disbelief. "Love is not blind, oh, my sister. Love sees, but sometimes it refuses to talk. But be careful before you buy yourself sorrow with your own house." But Sandra was deaf to all the warnings. She smiled and continued bargaining with the trader, convinced that her love for Andrew would carry them through any storm. The weeks passed, and the preparation for the traditional marriage gathered speed. In the evening, Sandra stayed awake, making lists, arranging items, and running around to cover expenses. Andrew, meanwhile, would sit at home with his friends, discussing football or politics, hardly lifting a finger. Whenever she complained, he would take her hands, kiss them, and say, "My queen, don't worry. Once we marry, things will change." And every time Sandra complained, he would take her hands, kiss them, and say, "My queen, don't worry. Once we marry, things will change. I will rise, I will make you proud." And every time Sandra believed. What she didn't know was that the very foundation of her marriage was already cracked. The storm was only waiting for the right time to blow. The day of the traditional marriage drew nearer. Sandra's family in Port Harcourt was busy preparing. As the Umunna, her extended family, had begun to gather for the great event, the house was filled with activities. Women grinding pepper, men setting up chairs, children running around in excitement. Everyone was ready. But there was one problem. Andrew's people had not brought the bride price. It was supposed to be a proud moment, the time when a groom finally showed honor in the bride's family by paying what was due. But Andrew's father had been avoiding calls. His mother sent excuses through neighbors. Finally, one evening, Andrew broke down in front of Sandra. His voice shook as he spoke. "My love, I don't know how to tell you this. My father doesn't have the money for the bride price. Things are too hard at home. He says we should postpone the marriage until things get better." Sandra's heart dropped. She stared at him, speechless. Postponed? After all the money she had spent, after all the preparation her family had made, she felt shamed creeping up her spine. The entire Muna was already expecting to be entertained. Her friends were excited, expecting to dance. The whole neighborhood knew about the date. She closed her eyes and whispered, "God, what do I do now?" Andrew wept, covering his face with his palms. "I don't want to lose you, Sandra. I love you. But my family has failed me. What do I do?" That night, Sandra could not sleep. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind. A man without responsibility is danger in disguise. Amaka's voice also returned. "Don't buy sorrow with your own hands." But her heart was so soft. She told herself, what if this is just his test? What if this is my chance to prove my loyalty? The next day, without telling anyone, she walked into her bank account and withdrew a huge sum. She converted it into the traditional bundle of naira, neatly wrapped, and secretly handed it to Andrew. "Take this, my love," she said firmly. "Go and give it to your father. Let him present it as if it came from him. I don't want shame on that day. Let people respect you. Let my family honor you as a man." Andrew's eyes widened. "Sandra, are you sure? This is a lot of money." She smiled faintly, though her heart trembled. "I am sure. What matters is that we start our life together. Money will come later. What is important is love." Andrew hugged her tightly, whispering, "You are the best thing that ever happened to me. And I promise you, I will repay you one day. I will make you proud." On the day of the traditional marriage, the compound was full of music, laughter, and dancing. The Umuada, woman of the family, and the Umunna, everybody dancing and rejoicing, nodding in satisfaction. And the priest blessed their union. Andrew's father stood tall, chest out, presenting the bride price as if it came from his sweat. People clapped and praised Andrew, calling him a man of honor. Only Sandra knew the truth. As she knelt before her husband, accepting a blessing, her heart was heavy. She had broken tradition, but she told herself it was for love. It doesn't matter who paid, she thought. What matters is that we are married now. We will build our future together. That night, after all the celebration ended, Sandra sat on her bed, looking at her new husband. Her body glowed from makeup. Her wrapper glittered under the dim light, but her spirit felt unease. She whispered a silent prayer. "God, please let me not regret this decision. Please let this marriage bring me joy and not tears." But heaven was silent, and the real test of her marriage had just begun. Marriage life started with promises, but very quickly, promise turned into problems. Just 1 week after the traditional wedding, their landlord came knocking. "Madam Sandra, your rent has expired. We need the new payment this month, or you will have to leave." Sandra blinked. Rent? Already? She had spent so much on the marriage that she had forgotten the rent date was so close. She turned to Andrew. "My love, did you hear him? The rent has expired." Andrew stretched his head, avoiding her eyes. I thought maybe my father would assist, but you know how things are." Her heart sank. Without another word, she dipped into her account and paid the rent. The very first bill of her marriage was on her. The days that followed opened her eyes wider. Food money, it came from her pocket. Electricity she paid. Even common toothpaste she bought. Andrew would wake up late, sit in the parlor, and spend the day watching TV channels, watching football, or chatting with friends outside. At first, Sandra held her tongue. She told herself maybe he is just resting. After the stress of marriage, he will soon get serious. But weeks turned into months, and Andrew made no effort to look for joy. One evening, after cooking a pot of soup with her own money, she decided to talk. Andrew, my husband, please listen to me. I don't mind supporting you, but I can't carry everything alone. You are the man of this house. Please, let's think of what you can do, even if it's something small for now. Andrew's face hardened. He leaned back on a chair and gave a smirk. So you are not looking down on me, Abby? Because you work in the bank and earn 400k. You think I am a useless man. You think I don't know what I want to do with my life. You even want to choose a job for me. Sandra's eyes widened. Choose a job for you? I only want to help. I actually spoke to my friend, and she said her school is looking for teachers. They pay 200k. It's something you can start with. Andrew's laughter filled the room. But it wasn't the laughter of joy, it was mocking. 200,000 naira. Me? Do I look like a child to you? You want me to go and stand in front of children, shouting A for apple, B for ball? Please respect me. If Nigeria were good, I would be working in a shell company by now, not talking about teaching. Sandra felt her throat tighten. She tried to speak again, but tears filled her eyes. All she could say was, please, Andrew. He waved his hand dismissively. Don't stress me. If you like, keep spending your money. If not, I don't care. I'm not rushing. One day, big money will come. And so it began. Every month, Sandra would give him half of her salary, 200k. Keep it, she would beg. Save it for our future, for the house. But instead of saving, Andrew discovered Bet Niger. Betting became his career. He would sit for hours in viewing center, arguing over clubs, dreaming of big wins. Whenever Sandra questioned him, he would flare up. Stop disturbing me. Do you know how many people have become millionaire through betting? One day it will be my turn. But that day never came. Instead, the house filled with tension. Sandra carried the weight of rent, feeding, and bills, while her husband sank deeper into idleness and gambling. She tried to smile in public, but instead, she was breaking. Sometimes, at night, she lay on her bed and asked herself, did I make a mistake? Was my mama right? Was Amaka right? But each time, she silenced those thoughts with a prayer. Marriage is for better or worse. God, give me strength. What she didn't know was that the wars had only just started. Months rolled into years, but Andrew did not change. The only thing that grew was Sandra's burden. By now, everyone in her office knew her as the woman who carried her husband. She smiled to cover her shame, but inside, she was drowning. Each month, her salary would vanish before she could even buy herself a new dress. Rent, food, and Andrew's pocket money all swallowed it up. And Andrew, he grew lazier. The sight of him stretched on the sofa with the TV remote in his hand became a thorn in her eyes. Sometimes, she would stand by the door and whisper under her breath, God, is this what marriage is supposed to be? Then one day, she discovered she was pregnant. The news should have brought joy, but instead, it filled her with fear. She stared at the test tube in her hand, her heart pounding. How will I raise a child with this man who acts like a child himself? When she told Andrew, he laughed with excitement, lifted her up, and spun her around. I will soon be a father. Our child will be great. But when she asked about saving for the baby, his face fell. Don't worry, my queen. God will provide. Sandra swallowed her anger. She had heard that line too many times. As her pregnancy grew, she tightened her budget. Andrew, please, I can't give you money this month. I need to buy baby clothes, prepare for hospital bills. Andrew's eyes dark. His voice rose. So because you are pregnant, you now want to control me. You think I am useless, Abby? Andrew, that's not what I mean, she pleaded. We have to be wise. This baby will need many things. But instead of Andrew understanding, he exploded. His hand flew across her face. Before she could even move, the slap rang like thunder. Sandra staggered back, clutching her cheek, tears flooding her eyes. You raised your hand on me? She whispered. Andrew's chest heaved with anger. Don't ever deny me money again. Don't push me to anger. Sandra, respect me as your husband. From that day, the home became a prison. Out of fear, she resumed giving him money. Anything for peace to reign. She cooked, cleaned, cooked, and carried her pregnancy alone, while Andrew strolled about like a king. The day of delivery came, and with it came another storm. Sandra went into labor at night. She screamed in pain, begging Andrew to rush her to the hospital. Instead of grabbing the car key, he frowned. Hospital, do you know how much they charge? Can't you endure till morning? Maybe we can try a cheaper clinic. Andrew, she cried, clutching her stomach. I'm dying, please. When he refused, she picked up her phone with trembling hands and called her parents. They rushed over and took her to the hospital. Hours later, she gave birth, but her joy turned to ashes. The baby did not survive. Sandra lay in the hospital bed, her body weak, her heart shattered. Tears soaked her pillow as she whispered, God, why? Why me? And in the silence of the night, she felt her answer deep in her spirit. I did not give you this suffering, Sandra. You choose it yourself. I never give my children evil. Her cries filled the room. She realized then that her marriage had stolen not just her peace, but her joy. She returned home with empty arms, carrying grief heavier than her body could bear. Andrew did not comfort her. He did not apologize. He only muttered, It's life. Children will come again. Then he asked her for transport money. That night, as she watched him snore beside her, Sandra whispered, I'm no longer a wife. I'm a slave in my own home. And deep inside, a quiet strength began to rise in her, a strength that would soon lead her to break free. After losing her baby, Sandra stayed at her parents' house for a few weeks to recover. Her mother cared for her with a tender hands, and her father often shook his head, muttering, We warned you, but he did not hear. Now see. Sandra didn't argue. She was too tired. Deep down, she knew they had been right all along. Still, after some weeks, she decided to return to her matrimonial home. Even if Andrew is wicked, she thought, he is still my husband. I must try again. Maybe things will change. But 1 week later, when she went to pick some of her clothes from the house, her eyes met the truth that broke the last chain binding her soul to Andrew. She opened the door quietly and froze. There in the parlor that she paid rent for, Andrew was sitting with two strange women. Bottles of beer were scattered in the table, loud music playing, and laughter filled the air. One woman was sitting on his lap, giggling as she fed him suya. The other leaned against him, sipping from a glass. Sandra's heart pounded. She stood in silence, her hand still on the doorknob. Andrew turned and saw her. For a moment, his face fell. Then he quickly adjusted, forcing a smile. Ha, Sandra, you are back. Meet my friends. The two women laughed nervously, their eyes wide with shock. They expected Sandra to scream, fight, or drag them out by their hair. But she did none of that. Instead, she walked calmly into her bedroom, opened her wardrobe, and began picking her clothes into a suitcase. Andrew followed, his voice racing. Sandra, where are you going? Stop this nonsense. They are just friends. She didn't reply. She folded her clothes neatly, placed her shoes in a bag, and zipped up her suitcase. Her silence was louder than any insult. When she was done, she lifted the bag, walked past them, and headed for the door. The two women stared confused. Andrew shouted after her, Sandra, don't you dare walk out on me. This is your home. She stopped at the door, turned slightly, and said quietly, Home? This was never a home. It was bondage. and today I am free." Then she walked out without looking back. The next morning, she called her lawyer. Papers were drafted. Divorce proceeding began. When Andrew received the letter, his pride collapsed. He tried to threaten, then begged. But Sandra's mind was already made up. She had given all her money, her strength, her body, her heart, and he had given her nothing but pain. By the next month, the rent expired. With no job, no wife, and no savings, Andrew was thrown out of the house. He later found squatting with a friend, living off scraps. The last Sandra heard of him, he was teaching in a small school for 30,000 naira a month, less than the teaching job she had once begged him to accept. She shook her head when she heard the news and whispered, "So na me go carry devil with my own hands." Sandra meanwhile returned to her parents' home, where she slowly healed. Her mother held her close. Her father prayed over her, and her friend Amaka reminded her life did not end with Andrew. He will rise again. And she did. She rebuilt her life pieces by pieces, standing tall, wiser, and stronger. She had learned the hardest way that marriage is not slavery, and love without responsibility is a curse. Sandra's story spread quietly among friends, neighbors, and relatives in Port Harcourt. People whispered it in gatherings, and mothers used it as a warning to their daughter. Don't let love blind you into carrying a man's responsibility. Marriage is not pity, it is partnership. Sandra herself healed slowly. She returned to her banking job with a new fire in her spirit. She no longer carried shame on her shoulders. Instead, she wore strength like a crown. When colleagues in her office asked her about her marriage, she would smile softly and say, "It was not a marriage, it was bondage, but God delivered me." Andrew, on the other hand, became a shadow of the man he once pretended to be. The same pride that made him reject a 200,000 teaching job now left him struggling to survive on 30,000 naira. His friends abandoned him, and the woman who once laughed with him disappeared when his pockets dried up. In the end, Sandra rose while Andrew sank. Moral lesson: Sandra's story carries a truth that every heart must hear. Love is patient and endures, but it is not foolish. A woman cannot build a marriage on pity. If a man refuses to rise, refuses to walk, and rejects small beginnings, then his love is nothing but empty walls. A man's honor is in his responsibility. Paying a bride price is not just tradition. It is a symbol of readiness, of courage to provide. When a man folds his hands and waits for a woman to carry his role, he loses respect and the marriage loses balance. Marriage is a partnership, not slavery. A wife is a helper, not a lifeline. Support is good, but blind sacrifice can destroy you. Never ignore red flags. The signs are always there. The idleness, the excuses, the pride. If you closes your ears to advice, you will open your eyes to tears. Dignity is not in title but in action. Even if the work is small, do it with pride. A man who works is better than a man who dreams while others feed him. Never carry a man on your head when he refuses to walk with his own legs. Love should lift you, not bury you. Open your eyes before you say yes, because regret is heavier than loneliness. This is a story of love, blindness, betrayal, and the strength to break free.